Okay, ask Spilo. We're finally here, guys. All right, let's hop in really quick. Yep. If there's literally nothing else to shoot at us on it, is it worth breaking shield or saving all enough when the fight actually starts? I don't want to get caught in a reload without aiming. I'm telling you, okay. So I actually had this thought process recently, okay? Because I play a decent amount of Ana and I've been coaching some Ana recently. I think the general answer is no. I think the general answer is no, but again, I don't want to be that guy and to give it without context. If you're playing into like a Winston or like an Orisa shield, or maybe there's a Sigma shield out there, those shields are more breakable. Or if your team is running a good shield break comp, then those teams are worth. Alastair, thanks for the follow. Those shields are more breakable, and it's worth putting more emphasis into breaking shield. But if you're playing like Reinhardt versus Reinhardt, and you have like, I don't know, like a Mei or a Moira or like a Brig, you're playing like Diva or something that's just isn't really very good at shield break, don't bother shooting shield. Like if you're not going to consistently break the enemy shield with your composition, and you can help do it faster by shooting, then don't bother. Don't bother. Like, I would rather you put emphasis, and even if you can break shield, it's not always the best thing to do. Sometimes it's better just to put yourself in a better position to where you can land better nades, better sleeps, check your positioning, am I near a corner, things like that. So I'm not going to say no. I think it depends if it's an Orisa shield or a Winston shield, something that can break fast, so you can help with that. But generally, it's not really a very high priority. Tips to get out of tier 3? Like, there's no real tips. I can just give you guidelines. You need to have you need to try and be 4.5 or 4.6k peak SR. You need to be a decent communicator. You need to be a good teammate. You need to have a solid hero pool. Main tank. Yeah. But it's not easy. Okay. I'm struggling to understand conceptually what Briggs' role in the team context of dive and death ball. I play Sigma, I understand the role of denying contesting blade, just hard to move. His role does change depending on the DPS the team runs. With that stream of thought explaining what Sigma does, how would you describe Briggs' role in the team? What should your thought process be for aggressive defensive at Brig? Okay, so Briggs' job is one of two things, okay? She's either anti-dive, where her shield bash, whip shot, and most importantly, armor pack pockets another squishy and keeps them alive, okay? Or she's pocketing a DPS, or she's both. Okay? Now, the exception to that rule is when you run Brig and Brawl comps, like the Ryan Brig Lucio comps, where you're just all out aggression. And the reason you run Brig there is because Rally is just busted. And basically, Rally is better than, like, you could run Moira Lucio, but Rally is just better. And yeah, if you get Inspire proc early enough, you don't miss Moira's healing as much. Okay, but generally with Brig, you're basically playing it to counter dive, or you're playing to enable DPS. So let's say we're playing Brig in a dive comp. So let's say that's Sombra Tracer, okay, and dive tanks and stuff like that. You are running Brig with this comp. Brig's role in this comp is to proc Inspire, so that she can help heal her tanks whenever like damage stuff tanks. So proc Inspire and pocket DPS. So basically keep either your Sombra or Tracer, generally your Tracer, packed. And let them play a lot more aggressive. Because a packed Tracer doesn't just have 50 extra HP, she has 50 armor, which allows her to do significantly more than she could without Brig. Okay? So proc Inspire and pocket your Tracer. Now, there are other things that you can do when you're playing, like let's say Hanzo Tracer comp. Okay, so this is another comp that was decent for a while. Okay, depending on bans. Okay, whoops, I already threw one. Whoops. Okay, and what Brig brought to the table here is she pocketed Tracer, right? So nothing changed there. But when you see like a Zen and a Bat, or like a Zen and a Hanzo, you could look at that and say, hey, I could dive that. I could dive that, can I? Except for Brig. Right? So Brig makes the Zen and the Hanzo a lot harder to dive. Why? Because they get dove. They either whip shot the Winston as he's jumping in, you shield bash the Winston as he's in, stopping the damage. And then obviously you armor pack whatever they dive. So if they dive your Zen, he gets armor packed. They dive your Hanzo, gets armor packed, right? A lot, and they get booped away. And it's a lot harder to kill people who get armor packed, right? Especially considering dive DPS generally does poorly into armor. So you can look at Brig and say, this is what your job is as Brig. If we add actually a fourth one in here as well. So like another thing you could think is here is like, let's say you're playing, actually, I forgot, I almost forgot. There's one other thing. So like, let's say you're playing Hanzo Tracer into dive, or you're playing Hanzo Tracer into spam. So if you're playing Hanzo Tracer into full spam, right? So full spam would be Mei, full spam would be like a Sigma, Orisa, right? You lose the spam war, right? Even if you pocket your Tracer, you lose the spam war because you're not running a BAP, right? So BAP breaks shields, Brig does not. So what does Brig want to be doing there? Well, what Brig wants to be doing is Brig can play with her Sigma or her Tracer or whatever, but usually her Sigma, and she can actually brawl the enemy flanks. So remember, spam wants to take angles, right? Think back, you guys watch my Junkertown VOD review here. Think about if that Sigma that was clearing the Hanzo had a Brig with him. Or that Echo that was holding that one off angle had a Brig with her. Could Hanzo have taken that off angle away? No. Hanzo would have been shield bashed and killed, right? So you also have the opportunity to brawl with Echo, Brig. And if you're playing a comp that is full-on hard spam, you want to try and play in a way that you need to let your Sigma go in really deep, or let your Tracer go in really deep. Or maybe you're playing a Reinhardt and you need to go in really hard into that comp, and you can go in there and proc your Inspire off the enemy Orisa, maybe whip shot the Sigma away, like screw up the BAP, but you have to play faster. So this is what Brig brings to the table. You proc Inspire, you pocket Tracer, or pocket, let's just put it this way, your pocket DPS, your anti-dive, and your brawl. So you need to look at the enemy composition and say which one of these concepts applies. If you're playing Brig loose, like full brawl, right? With like Reaper Mei or Kree Mei versus an enemy spam comp, do you really want to be pocketing your DPS? Is that really a priority? Are you anti-diving an Orisa Sigma comp? No, so these don't matter. But Brawl matters, and proccing Inspire matters a lot. You need to be forcing your Brawl fast, and you need to proc your Inspire, otherwise your team is going to die because they won't have enough healing. Okay, what if you're playing a dive comp with Brig? Do you need to be brawling as much? Not really, no. Do you need to be proccing your Inspire as much? I mean, this is always important, but it's a little less important. Well, okay, it's not a little less important. It's just as important. But definitely Brawl is not as much an option. Instead, these three are very important, okay? What if you're playing a Hanzo Tracer composition, right? Let's say you're playing it with an Ana Brig or a Moira Brig. Like, let's say you're just playing it ranked, you have a scuffed comp, right? So then, if you have a DPS to pocket, then that becomes important, right? But then they're not running dive, so you don't have to worry about anti-dive, right? And proccing Inspire is not important because you already have a lot of healing. But you better darn well help your team win. You better be darn well pocketing your DPS, and you better darn well be helping the brawl. So it's like you kind of have to look at these four things and say which one of these applies depending on the enemy composition. So this is why Brig is hard to play. Like, are you confused yet? Because if you're not really paying attention. Because like this is hard. This is why. Like honestly, the level of play for Brig for the last several months has been very low. It's been getting much better recently, but the number of people that were just bad at Brig in Overwatch League and contenders was really high because Brig is a complicated hero to play because she's played in dive, she's played in spam, and she's played in brawl. And her role changes in everyone. In spam, it's to enable her DPS and to proc Inspire and help her team win off-angle wars. In dive, it's to be anti-dive and pocket her DPS. And Brawl is just all-out aggression and proccing Inspire. So, dive. Anti-dive. So you play her in dive to counter enemy dive, like the old Lucio playstyle. Inspire. Pocket DPS. Now, what if the enemy team... What if you're playing dive into spam? Then you no longer anti-dive. Now you're playing to brawl, right? Like when your team dives, you can actually go in as Brig. Spam. Pocket DPS. And brawl. And what you do is you don't just run at the enemy Orisa. You brawl the off angles. You hold the off angles. You help your team. Like that Mei or that Orisa, or that Sigma, excuse me, is not going to be able to bully your Sigma out because your Sigma has a Brig with them. Okay? Now, what if you're playing spam into dive? Well, now that changes. Now you're no longer looking to brawl off angles. Now you're looking to anti-dive and proc your Inspire. Okay, and then what about brawl? Definitely important to proc Inspire. and to brawl properly. Okay, so in other words, land your cooldowns in a way. But like, what if you're playing brawl into spam? Okay, you still have to brawl, but proccing Inspire is significantly more important. Or what if you're playing brawl into dive? Well, now you actually have an anti-dive role slid in here. So it depends. You have to look at what you're running, what the enemy team is running, and pick anti-dive, Inspire, pocket your DPS, or brawl. Those are your 4 options, and it depends on what you're playing into. This is a complicated topic. I hope I didn't lose too many people. Any common misconceptions that irk you in Tier 3? Misconceptions about Tier 3 or in Tier 3? I think one misconception is that there's probably nepotism in... Put it this way, there is probably nepotism in like 4.4K teams that prevent you from getting positions on certain teams, but there is a little bit of arrogance in the Tier 3 and even the Tier 2 scene that the best players are not getting chances because of nepotism. If you're a really good player, a 4.6K player that's a good communicator and you're flexible, you will get noticed. And not even nepotism can stop you. Like, nepotism might stop a player that is slightly more deserving than another, but if you're significantly better than your counterparts, you will get noticed, you will get picked up. Almost certainly. Brig is very tough to play right now. Yeah. Do I have a 6-pack? Yes. Should I be pre-armor packing as a Brig onto other squishies that they want to dive? I mean, depends on the generally I like it depends. So like pre-packing is Zen because you think they might dive him is kind of scuffed because you often are wasting the armor pack. But if you think a dive is literally about to happen, then pre-packing is okay. But reactively packing isn't bad as long as you're fast. My only concern about pre-packing is Zen because you think they might dive is that there's the chance that they don't dive the Zen and then you just wasted an armor pack. And you can't permanently armor pack somebody. Like, you could really only permanently armor pack one person, and you want it to be a DPS, not Zen. If possible. Webcam? What about webcam? Oh, it was in the way, sorry. That helps so much? Yeah, you're welcome. Yeah, Brig is much harder than she used to be. If enemy Genji Nano Blaze focuses a 200 HP ally, can Nano plus Pocket so they won't die? Yeah, sure, that generally works. Nano plus Nade will often save them. Yep. It's definitely a play worth trying. It says Aspire is mostly being answered on stream, and then he plans to save the bots, put them on YouTube before Twitch deletes them. I mean, that's the poor... Like, Baggins brought something up to me, like, we can export this stuff to YouTube, so maybe that is something that we could try, sure. But it just, honestly, guys, like, I'll do my best. I'll do my best, but I do have a lot of work. What were Paris Turtle doing with the position in Nepal Sanctum? I don't have Nico's feed and shrine, but him and Simon just kept getting free kills with their ults at the same time. Give me a timestamp and I'll look at it. But I'm not going to comment without actually seeing it. Oh, I'll take a look at it really fast then.
Haven't really seen it too much, honestly, in the May Reaper versus Echo matchup, but Philly made it work there. You know, the speed boost were really...
So Nico and Soon.
Really good positions and put a lot of pressure on.
Was it? Is this it? Is this the positioning here? Right. Okay, so Philadelphia Fusion is playing a really hard brawl comp. So this just looks like Soon got caught off guard. Now you guys remember distinctly where I said that Rhine and Echo do not mix, okay? Echo is just obliterates Rhine. But the problem is if there's a map that's very close quarters and you roll out really fast in a full brawl comp, like we see Philadelphia Fusion here do, did they TP? Yeah, they TP too. Okay, so they symmetric TP from spawn. So they get way forward. You will catch people sleeping. So this actually happened to me in an official not long ago where an enemy team played something wrong, but they did it wrong really well, if that makes sense. And it works out. So the Paris Eternal just get caught sleeping. Like, Soon does not expect him to run a Rhine comp, and he certainly doesn't expect him to be here this early. So he gets caught off guard. This is like where you use an arguably an inferior strat to surprise the enemy team, right? I don't think this is the best comp to be playing on this map, but it works because Paris Eternal wasn't ready for it. And this is not a bad comp on this map. This is maybe not the best comp, but it's not a bad comp because of the close quarters, and if you can TP as well. So Soon just gets caught with his pants down. That's all there is to it. There's no... This is just...
mean, why not just get the game over with already? Soon out of position gets taken.
I mean, this is just Paris Eternal getting bullied out of all of their space, and yeah, I mean that's just that. Paris Eternal just does not stop pressing W. So now this is where it gets to be really problematic. So retaking space like this, you have to flank. So what you would need to do is you need to pocket Nico. Nico would need to come around here or here, which is honestly hard to pocket because you don't have LOS. And he would need to get some heavy spam from either of these off angles. But you're going to have to flank off angle, hopefully build an ult, but this is not looking good for Paris Eternal. Like, Paris Eternal's DPS almost have to feed to try and get through this choke. See, they're looking for Echo. They know Echo's around here somewhere. Oh, that's unfortunate. Okay. This isn't Nico feeding. This is Nico trying to break the choke. Maybe he could have done it better or timed it better, but this is... They have to do that to break this choke.
Really good to try and work with.
Okay, they get a rotation. That's actually huge. A lot of ults used at once. Yeah, so they get a rotation for free. Soon needs to run. Nico is in too deep. Yeah, Nico is in too deep. Nico's just in too deep. Nico's in too deep, and part of the problem might be that they were unclear with their engage call. So this could have been a communication issue where you thought they were taking the fight there and it didn't happen. It also could just be unfamiliarity with the hero. I know several times as Echo, when I've kind of screwed on with deathmatch, I'm like, oh shoot, my shift's on cooldown. I'm screwed. Because like you feel like you're just gonna move anywhere and do anything at once, and all of a sudden you're like, I'm on cooldown and I'm stuck. I'm actually. So that was a mistake. Yeah, that was just a mistake. That's also Soon just feeding. Soon should not be in the side of the map. So they've flipped the map. Soon should be on pillars. So that's 2 DPS feeding errors in a row. The initial fight, not so much. Initial fight just felt like they were not caught up. They were caught up by the aggression. And then on the first retake, Nico is just trying to make something happen to break the choke, which you have to do. But the last 2 DPS deaths have been feeds, yes. Better to run ball to touch points. Wouldn't be a bad strategy. But wouldn't be great into May Reaper also. So you're noticing that what do they swap to? Okay, is this it, by the way? Is this it, or is it happening, or more to watch? Notice that Paris Eternal goes brawl, because you're not going to break this choke with spam if you don't have ults. And now they just lose ults. There's more until the end? Okay, well then I won't skip so much then. Okay, so Nico gets a touch. Soon gets the next touch. Soon comes off. Hanbin's on the touch. There's the Flux. Soon's on the back line. They missed the Flux, looks like. How do you miss that Flux? They miss the Flux. What on earth? Nico dies. Oh, Nico gets pinned. Nico gets shattered. Okay. Should win this. Soon's just brawling. Paris Eternal wins this. Okay. So nothing happened there. Nico just got shattered. DPS played fine there. Really clutch. Really clutch. From Paris there. FD God clutched it hard. So they're playing Sigma off angle on pillars. He's going to be spamming them as they push onto point. And then if they don't clear out Sigma first, Sigma's going to be outvaluing their Diva super hard. So what I anticipate is Reaper, some sort of speed crew, probably going to be pressuring Sigma while they rotate to point. So that Sigma gets less pressure.
They're not big ults, but they are clutchable.
Definitely clutchable, especially if they can make some plays. FD God is hunting.
Okay, there's the TP. He drops, misses the blizzard, or misses the ult. What was Nico doing? Can Nico initiate as well? Yeah, Nico initiates as well. probably would have preferred Nico to punch the Diva instead of going for backline to cancel Matrix. And Nico dies. I mean, that wasn't a feed, it just wasn't a great execution. Okay, was that it? I'm not seeing particularly feeding here. Just like, okay, the first little section there, but the last fight wasn't so much feeding, just poor play. Yeah, that's it. Okay, but yeah. Initially, not exactly feeding, just an honest mistake that could happen really, and then but definitely feeding. Like they each fed once, Soon by himself, and then Nico by himself. And Nico, I think, both were positional errors. That Soon's Blossom is fine. Soon's Blossom is fine. He just needed more support on it. He needed way more support on it. His placement wasn't very good, and he didn't get enough aggression from his team. Like his team, they beated and blossomed and nobody died. Like either backline dies or frontline dies because they're getting his own. Because the Moira pieced out, man. Frontline was not getting any healing. Somebody in the frontline should have died. Yeah. Okay. What were the positioning differences in BAP on and Zen play? BAP is more flexibility with high ground because you can go up and down from high ground. So you can play less around, like corners are so important, but also the ability to go up to high ground and back down again is something that you want to exploit as much as possible. Ana, you can generally play in positions where you're a lot further back. So you can either play way closer or way further back than Zen can play. Because you have a hit scan gun and not a projectile, you can play like in Narnia and just be basically untouchable and just shoot, but it does mean that you're going to struggle landing sleeps and nades. Or on the converse, you can play really close to your team because you have a smaller hitbox and you have a self-heal and look for like really aggro nades and sleeps. So sometimes with Ana, you can play like your team is here and you can play like way back here, or you can play like right behind your team and just like look for really aggro sleeps and nades. Whereas with Zen, you generally want to be somewhere in between, like not on top of your team because you don't want to eat spam, but you can't be a million miles away because you might be outside of Discord range and you're so far that it's harder to land your shots. How do you safely poke for ult charge some or doing poke phase transitions? Anytime that you know that you're going to be able to have your translocator cycle back in again before that your team or the enemy team pushes. Definitely safely poke would be behind the enemy team, looking for tanks, and respect the enemy's ability to CC and or one-shot you. If I take high ground, I'm behind the choke or some level sky. If I poke before the team fight, the enemy will just delay their attack and transition of a long range like McCree or Hans will force me to TP. And that's fine. Like, if you poke before the team fight, they'll delay their attack, which is what you want them to do. You're delaying their attack and you're building EMP. That's fine. Is poking against an entire enemy team before the fight starts just simply not viable? It's viable, you just have to be very, very cautious about it. You have to TP really, really fast. Outside of the actual team fight, should be looking for pokes only against staggers and probably against tanks? Sure. Go to enemy spawn, look for an enemy right in spawn, so you poke before you get? Sure. But you can poke against 6 mans, you just have to be very cautious about it. Like, you know, flashbang. There aren't a lot of one-shots that will one-shot you quickly. Like, obviously, if the enemy team is running a Hanzo, that's something you got to be careful of. But, like, I mean, what else behind Hanzo is going to one-shot you? You know? Sleep Dart, that's about it. Like, Widow's not going to instantly rescope at point blank and blow your head off, right? So you're probably fine. How should I play Sigma against or Diva against Zarya so you don't get forced out of many off angles? Just make sure that you're not poking before the enemy team. Like, set up your off angle and utilize your off angle before, like, so if I don't know if you saw my Diva VOD review earlier, but like one of the things that the Diva was doing consistently is exposing her off angle before the fight started too much. So she was getting cleared before the fight even started. So you don't get, if you're getting forced out of off angles, it's potentially because your timing is bad. Who are good Genji players in Overwatch League? I know Color Hex is a pretty good Genji. I don't know. Like, anybody who plays projectile DPS in Overwatch League is probably pretty good at the hero. Agilities, yeah. Jinmu, yeah. Would you recommend poking first fight in 2CP? Depends on the map. Volskaya might be a little tricky because it's such a short path, but something like, what's another 2CP? Horizon, for example, you'd be fine doing their spawn because there's a lot of time before they get to the choke. Do you think Kaluj should be barred from L? I mean, I don't really know exactly what Kaluj did. I know that there was some like insensitive things that he said, but like I don't know exactly how much that he said or how much was bad. I know that he definitely paid consequences for what he did, but you have to also keep in mind that Overwatch League, I don't think Overwatch League should bar him considering he already like supposedly paid the consequences for it, but it doesn't mean that any team should feel the responsibility to pick up a player, right? So like I don't think he should be suspended from Overwatch League considering he quote unquote did his time, but that doesn't mean that a team like Vancouver Titans has the obligation to pick up a player that they think might be a liability, right? They already are on blacklist as it is with this popular opinion, so like Like a team has to consider, like, are people going to hate us? Like, is this really worth the risk? You know? And that's something I do as a coach. Like, there's a lot of players that we've looked into, which I won't name, who supposedly have, you know, bad attitudes or done this or have really bad reputations. And it's honestly, it's like, sometimes it's just not worth the risk. So that's something, I don't think he should be barred from Al, but we should be surprised that if not every single Al team is foaming at the mouth to pick him up. Except for, rumors the Titans picked him up and then Al rejected his contract. I would be surprised if that was the case. If that is the case, then I would think that's very unfair. But I would be surprised. I would not be surprised that Titans picked him up and then or didn't go through the contract. But if Al actually rejected the contract, then I mean I don't know exactly what he did, but I would be. I won't speak on it because I don't know exactly what he did. But it would have to be pretty bad for Al to ban it. Last time you coached my Ana, you rage quit the interview and just told me I don't know how to play her. I got a diamond on her. How does it make you feel? I didn't do that. There's no way. I don't even remember that. There's no way. I feel terrible. How do you play Ryan Diva to get value over Ryan Zarya King Zero? Off angles, off angles, off angles, off angles, off angles. Off angles and pressuring backline when your team is, and safely pressuring backline when the brawl is happening. But I mean, there's a reason why Zarya is played over Diva a lot of times than King Zero, because Zarya is just flat out easier. King Zero off angles aren't exactly oppressive. Review lesson for 5 minutes? Really? Are you trying to improve your Ana? I cannot remember that. I'm new to PC and switch from PS4. How do I improve my potato to mechanics? FFA and comp. I was on PS4 and currently gold on PC. That's actually not a terrible drop. Not a terrible drop at all. Just grind free for all deathmatch and warm up and in while you're in queue for comp. Then you'll be good. I mean, maybe because you just didn't have any hours in Ana. Because I don't like coaching people that have fewer than 15 or 20 hours on a hero. Because there's so many basic errors that they make that it's like, you just need to play the hero a little longer. Okay, I'm all done. Whom should we host? Venator? Who should we host, guys? Ana was the main sport you played? Right. Let's see here. Who should we host? Who should we host? Any suggestions? Thank you for streaming and have a nice weekend. Thank you. Before you go, though, who should we host? Somebody small-ish.
Oh, you host me.
No. Yeah, so that's your problem, Black Dracon. If you only have 15 hours in any season, a hero, then that's not going to be helping you a whole lot. Anyone in my Discord? Don't see anybody.
How's Neo?
You did way too much quick play? Yeah, trust me, I know the feeling. I was a quick play warrior myself before I committed to the climb. I don't see anybody. We could just host one of the post UA schedule. We don't know what UA schedule is. That's the thing. It's literally week to week basis. It's legit. Unironically, we don't know when we're playing until the week before. It's contenders this season. So Peak is doing Valorant. I don't know who's Valorant. Dan's game. Heck, we'll host Flats. Flats is kind of a bigger streamer now, but I know he's like getting into the bigger stream, so like it'll be big. All right, tell Flats I said hello. Had the opportunity to hang out with him a lot over at Boston. Really nice guy, and he's a pretty darn good Reinhardt player. So tell Flats I said hello, and I will see you guys next week. Cheers.
I knew this game was like the most scuffed shit I've ever seen.
Yeah.